She said he had every right to hit you after her new boyfriend smashed my face. Then, I have full custody of my son after his mom repeatedly chose violent criminals over his safety. Now she is arrested again, and I am being called petty for enjoying watching her life fall apart. This is probably going to be long, and I am not sure if I am looking for judgment or just need to get this off my chest. Maybe both. My ex Kira, 28, and I started dating in high school. We were those typical young and stupid kids who thought love conquered everything. Got pregnant when we were 18 and had our son Jake at 19. Yes, that was very young, and yes, we were completely unprepared, but we were going to make it work. For the first year, things were hard, but we managed. I was working full-time doing construction and going to community college at night. Kira stayed home with Jake, and we lived with my parents to save money. It wasn't glamorous, but we were making it work, or so I thought. When Jake was about a year old, Kira sat me down and said we needed to talk. I thought maybe she wanted to discuss daycare or our living situation. Instead, she looked at me and said, "I cannot do this anymore. You are boring. I don't want to live some dull family life-changing diapers and watching you leave for work every morning. I am too young to be just a mom and a girlfriend to someone forever." I still remember every word because they gutted me. The kicker was she didn't leave to go figure herself out or travel, or do any of the things young people do when they feel trapped. She left me for Marcus, the guy she had been cheating with for 3 months. Marcus was 25 at the time and had his own apartment and no kid tying him down. He worked as a bouncer at some club, and I guess that was more exciting than a guy who came home covered in drywall dust. Whatever. I was devastated, but I focused on Jake. We worked out a custody arrangement, 50-50th split, and I thought, okay, this sucks, but we will co-parent like adults. That lasted exactly 7 months. Here is where it gets bad. One night, I am dropping Jake off at Kira's apartment for her week. I am walking up with Jake in my arms. He is almost 2 when Marcus comes out and immediately gets in my face about me being 10 minutes late. I try to walk past him and he shoves me hard. I stumble, almost dropping my son, and that is when he really goes after me. He punched me in the face while I was still holding Jake. I got Jake down and Marcus just kept going, knocked out 2 of my teeth, gave me a concussion, and bruised my ribs. Neighbors called the police. I went to the hospital and Marcus got arrested. The worst part was Kira defending him the whole time. She told the police I provoked him. She bailed him out, left herself broke, and still expected Jake to stay there with them. I filed for emergency custody immediately. CPS got involved because of the incident in front of Jake. 3 months later, I got full physical custody. Kira got supervised visitation 2 hours every other week at a facility. Marcus served 3 months for assault. 3 months for attacking me while I held our toddler. Kira was furious, called me 30 times that day. I still have some of the voicemails saved for legal records. In one, she screamed, "You manipulative asshole, you turned them all against me. There is no way Marcus should be in trouble for what he did. He was angry you were taking my son. He had every right to be upset. Like that justified knocking my teeth out." That was 8 years ago. Things didn't get better for her. And here is where I might be the asshole, because part of me is glad they didn't. Edit. Some people are asking why I have any contact with her at all. The supervised visitation is still her legal right, and the court encouraged maintaining some relationship when possible. Also, my son occasionally asks about her, and I don't want to completely cut her out without his input as he gets older. Edit 2. For those asking, my son, he is doing great in school, has friends, plays soccer, and sees a therapist regularly. He is my priority in all of this. Update 1. 2 years later, Kira had another kid with Marcus. A daughter. She tried to get Jake back, claiming she had a stable home now and wanted her kids together. I was stressed out, but Marcus couldn't stay out of trouble. 2 more arrests in that period were for bar fighting and drug possession. The petition was denied. The judge said supervised was all she would get given Marcus was still there and had proven violent. She lost it in the courtroom. Started screaming, "You manipulated them. You poisoned them against me. You are keeping Jake from his sister." What kind of father does that? Her lawyer had to physically pull her back into her seat. From then on, she told everyone Marcus attacking me was justified, because I was taking her son. like the assault happened after the custody battle. Insane revisionist history. About a year later, she cheated on Marcus. He beat her worse than he beat me, and she ended up hospitalized. She finally left him and got a restraining order, but she had nowhere to go. Ended up homeless, living in her car, then with friends. She petitioned for custody again, claiming she had left the abusive relationship. Denied, because she wouldn't disclose her address. Eventually, CPS discovered she was living with 2 people with drug records, one actively dealing. CPS investigated whether her daughter should be removed. Marcus had a family willing to take the kid, and eventually Kira moved somewhere else. So the daughter stayed with her, because she left Marcus. She got 1 extra supervised visit, per month with Jake, twice a month, instead of once. She seemed to try during visits, bringing gifts, asking about school. Jake was 6 by then, old enough to have opinions. He was always nervous before visits, but never said he didn't want to go. For about 6 months, things seemed stable. She had a job at a grocery store, had an apartment that wasn't with criminals, and wasn't with Marcus. I thought maybe she was finally getting it together. My son even said Mom seems happier, which broke my heart a little because he was so aware of all of this. Then, she got into a new relationship. Some guy named David who seemed okay on paper. Having a job with no criminal record was nice to Jake during the supervised visits. The social workers reported that things seemed positive. Kira petitioned for increased visitation and got it. Still supervised, but now it was 4 hours every week instead of 2 hours twice a month. I was cautiously optimistic. Maybe this was it. Maybe David was a good influence. Maybe she would finally choose stability. That lasted 4 months. David left her suddenly, just packed up and disappeared one day. Turns out he had been stealing from her the whole time. Took money from her bank account, sold some of her stuff, and pawned a laptop I had given Jake to use at her place. Cleaned her out financially, and left her unable to pay rent. She was homeless again. She called me during this time, actually called me crying, asking if Jake could stay with her at a motel. I said absolutely not. She called me heartless and said I was keeping her son from her during her lowest moments. I reminded her that Jake had school, stability at home with me, and I wasn't going to disrupt that so she could have him in a motel room. She ended up moving in with another guy. This one I looked up because by now I was documenting everything my lawyer had advised me to keep records of everything related to her living situations. This guy Ray had a record, not just small stuff either. Multiple assault charges, domestic violence charges, a weapons charge. He had done actual prison time. I immediately filed a motion to have her visitation suspended. It took 2 months, but it was granted. No visits until she could prove stable housing separate from Ray. She never did. She stayed with him and her visits stopped completely. That was a year ago. My son was 9. He asked about her less and less. His therapist said he was doing well and that the consistency and safety of living with me was the best thing for him. He had started to open up about feeling scared during some of the visits with his mom, about noticing when she seemed stressed or upset, and feeling like he had to take care of her. That killed me. 9 years old, and he felt responsible for his mother's emotional state during their 2 hours together every other week. I thought maybe this was it. Maybe Kira would just fade out of our lives and Jake could grow up without this chaos. Then a month ago I got a call from my lawyer. Kira had been arrested. The details were murky at first, but it was something related to Ray. Either she was involved in whatever he was doing, or she was present when he did something illegal, or she was covering for him. The specifics didn't matter to me. What mattered was she had been arrested, and my son had a mother with a criminal record now on top of everything else. I documented it immediately. I sent everything to my lawyer. We filed to have her visitation permanently terminated or at minimum reduced to supervised visits only once a month at most. Given her arrest, her pattern of choosing dangerous partners, and her instability, the court granted our motion. Visits reduced to once monthly supervised pending resolution of her criminal charges. Kira lost it. She had one of her friends call me, some woman named Sarah who I vaguely remembered from high school. Sarah wasn't involved in any of Kira's drama. She had her life together from what I could tell. Married with kids. Normal life. She called me furious. She told me I should feel bad for Kira, that I was being petty, trying to push her out of Jake's life completely. She said Kira was struggling, and instead of helping her, I was using every mistake against her. She said I should be supporting the mother of my child, not dragging her through court over and over. I asked Sarah why I would help someone who stood by while her boyfriend assaulted me. Someone who had repeatedly chosen violent criminals over the safety of our son. Someone who had been arrested and was potentially facing charges. Sarah said that Kira was in an abusive relationship with Ray. She was a victim too, and I should have compassion. I asked if Kira was such a victim, why she was still with him. Why did she choose to move in with him after I showed her his record? Why did she stay even after losing visitation? Sarah didn't have an answer for that. Here is where I might really be the asshole. I smiled during that conversation. Maybe even laughed once or twice. Because honestly, part of me enjoys seeing how much worse Kira's life gets every few months. Every time I think she has hit rock bottom, she finds a new low. And after everything she has put me through, everything she has put Jake through, I feel vindicated watching it happen. I told Sarah as much. I said I take joy in watching Kira's life fall apart because she made her choices. Every single time she chose chaos over stability. She chose violent men over her son. She chose to defend someone who assaulted me, and now she is facing consequences, and I don't feel bad about that at all. Sarah told me I was as bad as Marcus. Even worse, because I was actively enjoying Kira's misery and self-destruction. She said a good father would want his son's mother to be healthy and stable for the kid's sake. She said I should want better for Jake than having a mother who is completely out of his life. I told her the best thing that ever happened to Jake was Kira losing custody, and the less involved she is, the better off he is. Her awful choices have proven that over and over. We haven't spoken since. My parents think I am right, that I have every reason to feel how I feel. My sister thinks I am taking it too far, that I shouldn't enjoy watching someone suffer even if they brought it on themselves. A few friends have said I am justified, but I should probably not admit to taking pleasure in it because it looks bad. So Reddit, AITA for taking joy in my ex's life becoming a bigger mess every few months. Should I feel guilty about being glad she is facing consequences? Or am I justified after everything she has done? Update 2. It has been 3 weeks since my last post, and some of you asked for an update after the court hearing. So here it is. The hearing was about Kira's visitation rights in light of her recent arrest. My lawyer and I went in with all our documentation, everything from the past 9 years organized and ready. Kira's public defender was there. She looked rough, honestly, like she hadn't slept in days. The charges against her were for obstruction and accessory after the fact related to Ray's activities. She apparently helped him hide evidence or lied to police. Something along those lines. She took a plea deal 2 days before our hearing. Probation, community service, and mandatory counseling in exchange for dropped jail time since she had no prior record herself. The judge reviewed everything, all of it. The original assault by Marcus, the custody battle, the homelessness, the pattern of unstable housing and dangerous partners, the previous violations, and now the criminal conviction, even though it was pleaded down. He asked Kira directly why he should allow her to maintain any visitation given the pattern of behavior. She cried. Said she loved her son, that she was getting help, that she had finally left Ray and was staying with her mom now, trying to get back on her feet. My lawyer pointed out that Kira had said similar things before every time there was a crisis, that the pattern showed she would stabilize briefly then fall back into chaos. That Jake deserved consistency and safety, not a rotating door of dangerous situations. The judge agreed. He terminated all visitation pending Kira completing 1 year of consistent counseling, maintaining stable housing and employment, and demonstrating genuine lifestyle changes. After that year, she could petition to reinstate supervised visitation. But for now, nothing. Kira broke down crying in the courtroom. Her mom, who I hadn't seen in years, was there and tried to comfort her. I felt nothing watching it. Actually, that is not true. I felt relieved. My son took the news better than I expected. His therapist had been preparing him for the possibility that visits might stop for a while. He was quiet when I told him, then looked up at me with these big worried eyes. Did I do something wrong? Is Mom mad at me? That broke my heart. I knelt down to his level. No, buddy. This is about Mom needing to make better choices, not about you at all. You didn't do anything wrong. Can I still write her letters if I want to? Of course. If you want to write to her, I will not stop you. He hasn't written any yet, but I have paper and envelopes ready if he decides to. The Sarah situation escalated after the hearing. She called me furious, said I had destroyed a mother's relationship with her child, that I was weaponizing Kira's struggles. I told her what I told her before. The best thing for Jake was Kira being less involved. She called me cruel and worse than Marcus for enjoying Kira's suffering, then hung up on me. I blocked her number after that, but her words stuck with me more than I want to admit. Not because I think she is right, but because I started wondering if I am doing the right thing by being so satisfied with this outcome. Here is the thing though. I look at Jake every day. He is thriving. He is in advanced classes at school. He has friends who come over for play dates. He plays soccer and is learning guitar. He laughs easily and sleeps through the night and doesn't flinch when people raise their voices. He feels safe. When Kira was more involved, even just supervised visits, he was anxious. He would have stomach aches before visits and be withdrawn after them. His therapist could see the impact clearly. Every time there was instability in Kira's life, Jake felt it even when I tried to shield him from it. So yeah, I am satisfied that visits are suspended. Not because I want Kira to suffer, but because I want Jake to thrive. And those two things seem to be mutually exclusive. Some people in the comments on my last post asked if I felt any responsibility to help Kira get stable for Jake's sake. Honestly, no, I don't. I have spent 9 years watching her make choices. She chose Marcus knowing he was violent. She chose to stay with him after he assaulted me. She chose to move in with drug dealers. She chose David, who stole from her. And fine. Maybe she didn't know that would happen. But she then chose Ray, knowing his record because I showed it to her. At what point is it not my responsibility to save her from herself? My job is to protect and raise my son. That is it. If that means keeping his mother at arm's length until she proves she is safe, then that is what I do. I don't lose sleep over it. A few people also called me vindictive for admitting I take some satisfaction in watching her face consequences. Maybe I am, but there is something darkly satisfying about watching someone who called me boring and manipulative face. The reality that excitement and chaos aren't the same thing as happiness. She wanted adventure. She got it. It is just not the kind she imagined. I don't wish her harm. If she genuinely gets help, stays stable, finds a safe living situation, I will not oppose her having supervised visits again in the future, but I will not hold my breath either. Someone commented that I sound angry. I am angry. I have been angry for 9 years. Angry that my son went through trauma because his mother chose poorly. Angry that I had to become a full-time single parent at 19. Angry that I have spent tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees protecting my kid. Angry that Jake asks me sometimes why mom cannot just be normal, but I am also tired. Tired of the chaos. Tired of court dates. Tired of waiting for the next crisis. This suspension of visitation feels like breathing room finally. Like maybe we can just exist without drama for a while. My son and I are planning a trip this summer, just the two of us, going camping somewhere quiet. He wants to learn to fish, normal dad and son stuff, without the weight of supervised visits and social workers and court dates hanging over us. Maybe that makes me an asshole. Maybe I am supposed to be more charitable, more understanding, more willing to see Kira as a victim of circumstances. But I have extended understanding before and watched her squander it. At some point, patterns become choices. So no, I don't feel guilty. I feel protective. And if that means I am the villain in Kira's story, then so be it. In Jake's story, I am just his dad trying to give him a stable childhood. Final update: it has been 2 months since the court decision. And this will probably be my last post about this situation. I wanted to give one final update for everyone who followed along and offered support. Jake's doing great. Better than great. Honestly. His teacher called me in for a conference last week and I went in anxious, thinking something was wrong. Instead, she told me he has been excelling socially and academically. She said whatever changes we made at home are working because she has seen him become more confident and engaged. I didn't tell her that the change was removing his mother from his life. That felt too complicated to explain. He hasn't asked about Kira in 3 weeks. At first he would bring her up every few days, asking if she was okay, if she was living somewhere safe. I would answer honestly that I didn't know, but that I hoped she was making good choices. The questions got less frequent, and now they have stopped. His therapist says this is normal, that kids are remarkably resilient when they feel safe, and that sometimes the kindest thing is removing sources of anxiety even when that source is apparent. She also said when he is older, if he wants to reconnect with his mom, that can be revisited. But right now consistency matters more than maintaining a relationship with someone unstable. I got one letter from Kira, not to Jake, to me. It came 2 weeks ago, forwarded through my lawyer's office. She didn't have my address, and apparently had the sense not to show up at my house. The letter was 4 pages long. Most of it was the usual. You ruined my life. You turned the courts against me. You used your privilege and money to manipulate the system. You turned Jake against me, and he is going to hate you when he finds out the truth. You are vindictive, cruel, and you enjoy watching me suffer. You are emotionally abusive for taking pleasure in my pain. But the last paragraph was different. Her handwriting got messier, like she was crying while writing it. I know I have made mistakes. I understand why you don't trust me. I am living with my mom now, going to the counseling they ordered, working part-time at a grocery store. I am trying. After my year is up, will you consider supervised visits again? I just want a chance to be in Jake's life, even a small chance. He deserves to know his mother isn't a complete failure. I haven't responded. My lawyer advised me not to. Any communication should go through official channels, and there is nothing to respond to right now anyway. In 10 months, if she has actually maintained stability, we can discuss it then. Honestly, I don't know how I will feel in 10 months. Part of me hopes she does get her act together so Jake can have a relationship with his mom if he wants one someday. Part of me hopes she just fades away completely so we don't have to deal with any of this anymore. Both things feel true at the same time. Sarah, the friend from high school, sent me one more message before I blocked her. She said Kira had tried to hurt herself after the court decision, that she was in a really dark place and I should feel responsible for that. She said if anything happened to Kira, it would be on my conscience. I called my therapist after that message because it did mess with me more than I wanted to admit. My therapist, the one I started seeing a year ago because co-parenting with Kira was affecting my mental health, reminded me that I am not responsible for Kira's choices. That maintaining boundaries, even when someone is struggling, is not the same as causing their struggles. She also pointed out that Sarah was engaging in emotional manipulation, whether intentionally or not. That threatens me with Kira's potential self-harm, was a way to make me feel guilty for protecting my son. That I needed to recognize those patterns and not let them impact my decisions. So I blocked Sarah and I documented the message just in case it becomes relevant later. I hope Kira is safe. I genuinely do. But her well-being is not my responsibility, and it cannot come at the cost of my son's stability. Some final thoughts on the question that started all this. Am I an asshole for taking joy in my ex's misery? I think I phrased it wrong initially. It is not joy exactly. It is relief mixed with vindication. Relief that the courts finally see what I have been documenting for years. Vindication that my concerns were valid and not just me being controlling or manipulative like Kira claimed. Do I feel satisfied when I hear her life is still a mess? Yeah, I do. Because it confirms what I already knew, that she hasn't changed, and my son is safer away from her. That is not the same as actively wishing harm on her, or taking pleasure in her pain. It is more like watching someone repeatedly touch a hot stove and feeling validated when they get burned again. Maybe that is still wrong. Maybe I am supposed to have infinite compassion for someone who let her boyfriend assault me, who chose dangerous men over her son, who called me manipulative for protecting my kid. But I don't have infinite compassion. I have boundaries, and I am okay with that. The people calling me vindictive might be right. The people saying I am justified are probably right too. Both things can be true. I can be protecting my son and feeling satisfied when his mother's poor choices lead to consequences. Those aren't mutually exclusive. What I know for sure is this: Jake is happy, healthy, and safe. He has a stable home, consistent routines, good friends, and a father who puts him first. If maintaining that means keeping his mother at a distance, then that is what I do. If that makes me an asshole, then I can live with that label. Someone in the comments said, I sound cold. Maybe I am cold. You know what happens when you spend 9 years documenting abuse? Navigating court systems, watching your kid be anxious and afraid. You develop armor. You stop feeling sympathy for people who repeatedly hurt your child. You protect what matters and stop apologizing for it. Kira wanted excitement. She wanted to escape boring family life. She wanted something more than what we had. She got it. She got chaos, instability, dangerous men, criminal charges, homelessness. She got exactly what she chose. And I am supposed to feel sorry for her. I am supposed to help her. I am supposed to want her in my son's life. Number hard no. My son deserves better than a mother who sees him twice a month in a supervised facility and spends those 2 hours stressed about her own problems. He deserves better than wondering if mom is safe, if she is living somewhere stable, if she is with someone dangerous. He deserves to just be a kid. And I deserve to just be a dad without constantly managing crises that aren't my fault. So this is my final update. Kira has 1 year to prove she can maintain stability. Maybe she will. Maybe she will not. Either way, my son and I are moving forward. We are planning that camping trip. He is learning guitar. We are teaching him to cook. He is having friends over for his birthday next month. We are living life. And if that life doesn't include his mother for now or forever, then that is what it is. I made peace with it. Thank you to everyone who commented and supported and offered perspective. Even the people who called me an asshole gave me things to think about. I don't know if I was right or wrong in how I handled this, but I know I did my best to protect my kid. That is enough for me.